What's up, y'all? It's Safan here with an episode of Books, Bud, and BS. So today, I come bearing gifts. If you already hip to game, and you should be, in addition to being a booktube, Books, Bud, and BS is also a very active and lively and engaging and lit and vibrant book club hosted over on Facebook. So right now I'm going to give you a minute to go find the Books, Bud, and BS Facebook group to join the club so that everything I say from this point on makes perfect sense. Go join. I'll wait. Hey, you're back! Lovely! So listen, now that you've joined the club, you know exactly what I'm talking about. With the Books, Bud, and BS book club, our last selection was none other than New York Times bestseller, I'm Telling the Truth, But I'm Lying, by author, ex-poet, mental health advocate, Bassey Ikpi. I don't even know what to say or where to start about this collection of essays. It's raw, it's exposed, it's vulnerable, it's unapologetic, it's cringeworthy in the best of ways, it's necessary, it should be a required reading. And all of the book club members agree. In the middle of us agreeing about this book and just really dissecting all that it meant to us personally and universally, something happened. Bassey Ikpi herself actually joined in on our book club discussion. Yes, this actually happened. She joined the Zoom call to talk to us about this book and this conversation. I can't tell you about it. I can only show you. I'll give you a few tips though, a few hints. One, she shares a little bit about what she feels like she left out of the book. I mean, how could you leave anything out of a book this full and dense and just intense? I don't know, but she did. She talked to us a little bit about her writing process, which was really essential to how this book even came out the way it did. Some of it made perfect sense. You'll know exactly what I mean. And she talked about where she is in her mental health journey today. So, like I said, I come bearing gifts. Grab your favorite strain. I'm about to get in on this Gorilla Glue so that I can relax, yet focus. Grab your favorite strain, roll it up tight, and enjoy. Drop down in the comments. Make sure you let us know what you think about this dynamic conversation. And again, be sure to join us so that you can get in on any gifts that keep giving with the Books, Bud, and BS crew over on Facebook. Like, subscribe, share. Peace. Enjoy.
Hit me.
The first question, something that we noticed, all of us seem to agree when reading this book, is that there seemed to be a pattern of you, I won't say vying, but hoping for your parents' approval, their pride. There was something that seemed to be missing throughout the entire novel, entire collection, up through the acknowledgments. Even reading the acknowledgments, that seemed to still be a missing piece. So we were curious, do you feel like your parents are proud of you now?
Gosh, that's not the question I was expecting. I have to be honest and say that I don't think they are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not. There's a point where I stopped actively seeking that approval. Because I stopped actively seeking it, and because I stopped making it something that was directional, that was guiding my steps, I can't answer that definitively, but I know that my siblings are proud of me. I believe that I believe that my parents are not disappointed in me anymore, and that I can say definitively. Pride, I don't know.
Is that enough? Is that enough to just simply not be disciplined? That's enough.
Yeah, it's enough for me. It's enough for me now, because I'm at the point in my life where I am firmly committed to the person that I am. And I think even when I started writing the book, and of course earlier, I was not as committed to owning everything that I am. I wasn't as committed, and I am now. So that approval is wanted but not needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge shift yeah, that's a huge shift, especially for a child of immigrants.
That's so interesting for you to say you were not as committed to owning everything you were, because I mean, I thought you left every single bit of yourself on the page right there for us to take with us. You know, we talked a lot about how there were times when we had to put the book down because it was a lot to take in reading it. So can you talk a little bit about writing it so raw, so vulnerable, so exposed, so merciless, if we could use that word? How was that? Could you sit through that? Could you sit through and write that? Like how did you get through
I
writing these?
it's funny, and I'm smiling when you're saying that, because people have said that a lot. The book will be a year old next week, and people, thank you. I can't believe it. But people have said that a lot, and it kind of catches me off guard because I don't see it that way. It took a lot of work for me to write the book that I did, because the book that I started writing is not the book I ended up with. And I ended up with this book because I got to a point in my head, in my spirit, where I was like, fuck it. I can't dance around any of this. I was trying to write a memoir that was devoid of memories. I was trying to write a memoir that was more about what it isn't about, and what I didn't want to say, than what it is that I was actually saying. And once I decided that that's not what, I couldn't do that. There was no way, that I had to find a way to tell the story in a way that I was comfortable with.
Yes.
A way that I didn't feel exposed. Like, I think that what I'm taken aback by is the fact that this is a life that I've lived, right? This is something, these are things that I have experienced, and they're normal to me. It was normal to me to have those experiences. So I feel like when people are saying that it's raw, I think it's raw in that it's unusual.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of book, I think, that other people have read. But because it's my lived experience, I was actually, every once in a while, like, did I write something that I forgot? Like, I don't know what I said. Like, what are people referring to? Like, what part? Like, and I wasn't sure, and I'm not sure whether it's like the idea, like, you know, speaking about, I'm not camera ready at all. I'm looking at myself.
No,
like,
please. You're more than ready. You are more than ready.
But I wonder often if it's just the fact that I'm a Black girl, woman, person, speaking about mental health in a way that we're not used to seeing and hearing from Black people. Often, you know, I say that I wrote the book that I needed to read, because the books that I was finding, we were pathologized, or we're criminalized, or our experiences are like whittled down into numbers and statistics, and you know, the reason why this happens is because of this whole global thing. And that's true. Like, that's very, very relevant, but it doesn't speak to the personalized experience, and it doesn't speak to the human perspective. It doesn't speak to the fact that we are living people who are trying to figure out how to exist in this world, just on our own, just as our own entities, not to think of being, you know, responsible for us as a whole and as a group. And I wanted, through my story, to be able to lend a personal voice to these stories that are usually told very clinically and very academically. That was the only thing that was on my mind. Like, that was the only thing that was on my mind.
Accomplished. I'm definitely going to open it up. If anybody has a question, I definitely don't want to be.
But I want to ask, as the mother of a 14-year-old daughter who is really struggling with depression, what, not necessarily advice, but insight can you give, you know, parents who are trying to help young ones navigate as we navigate our own mental health? You know what I mean? Because I feel like I've kind of put it into therapy, but that does not feel like enough.
Well, I think that therapy at 14 is huge. It doesn't feel like enough, but it will be something that she'll look back on and be very grateful to have had. I wish that I had that at 14, because it would have saved me from a lot of the experiences that I had to learn you know, or the things I had to go through much later in life. But first of all, the fact that you're even asking the question is important, because so many parents are in complete denial. You know, especially as Black people, we have the, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? You don't have any bills, you don't have a job, you don't, you know, all these different things. So the fact that you are honoring and acknowledging the fact that she has emotions that are unique to her, that's huge. Like, these are things that don't feel like a big deal to you right now because you're in the middle of it. But I promise you, as she moves up and as you look at her, all those things are important because you're catching it very early. I think just reiterating that you are there for her, knowing that she's not alone in whatever it is that she's experiencing, that she's not damaged, she's not broken, she's not in danger of being thrown away or in danger of being just a danger of being thrown away because she doesn't fit an ideal that she thinks that you have, right? So honoring who she is presently, as opposed to placing who she could be. I think we do a disservice to kids who are going through things by saying, oh, but you could. Imagine when you're, you know, because there's no vision for that. I don't know what I'm doing an hour from now or tomorrow. I can't think of when I'm older. So everything being very immediate and being very present and very in the moment, I think is helpful. I would also say if the child is in therapy, the parent should be as well, so that you know the language and you know how to navigate what you're going through and how to make sure, and this is also a big thing, that what you're going through isn't affecting what the child is going through. So I don't know if that helps, but those are the things that I know that at 14 I would have appreciated. I would have appreciated parents in therapy, and I would have appreciated people who were in the moment with me and telling me about or helping me with right now, and not, you know, trying to like get me to college when, you know, I'm 14 and I can't even get through algebra.
I wanted to ask how you are present day. There are several points throughout the book where I almost wanted it to be fiction, because I wanted everything to be fixed and everything to be good. So like, and it resonated with me when you mentioned, I think there were several portions where you mentioned, well, if I do this, I'll be normal, or when this happens and when this medication, I'll be normal. So I just wanted to know how you are.
Well, thank you. I am great. Today was a high anxiety day because I have a project that I'm working on that I can't seem to get through because of COVID, but I am currently the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And I am progressively getting healthier. I say quite often that my wellness and my mental health is a full-time job, and it's one that I take very seriously. So there's nothing or no one that is more important than that when it comes to making sure that I'm okay. So I put in a lot of work, and I also know that there's a lot of work left to be done. But I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for asking.
I would love to know a little bit about your process as a writer, and how, I mean, and I don't, to me, your slam poetry background, or your background as a poet, excuse me, like transitions so seamlessly and beautifully into this prose. And so I would just love to know a little bit about your process and how you work.
Thank you. I'm chaotic. I'm a chaotic writer, right? I have so many friends who have these disciplines and these practices, and they get up and they drink coffee, and then they go into their office and they act like they're at a job. You know, it's they're constantly writing. They're constantly. I don't work like that. I said earlier that the process of, I was writing a whole different book. I was writing a standard memoir. I was struggling with that because I knew that wasn't the right approach, but I didn't know anything else. I didn't see anything else, right? So once I decided that this could possibly, and it is, because I don't plan on doing it again, the only book I could ever write. Like this,
Oh, you're done.
oh, I'm done. I'm a one and done.
Well,
I'm done.
you did good. But
Oh, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
have to mourn
thank
that
you so
loss.
much.
Next one, it's no time soon.
Okay.
It's no time soon. It was the most stressful. It was stressful. But yeah, once I gave myself permission, like, just what book do you want to read? What book does the version of you that you write the most about, which is that 24 to 28 or 9-year-old you, what book did she need when she was in the hospital, when she was in the doctor's office and he gave her a diagnosis, and then she ran home to Ask Jeeves and Yahoo, and this is before Google because I'm old, like searching for books, like what book should she have found? What book would have helped? And once I said that I have to write it the way that makes sense to me, and once I told my my editor, like, the book that you bought, the book that we sold is not the book that I made. I can't write that book. Like, that book is just not the one that's happening. And when she, you know, gave me permission to do that, I decided that I wanted people to be immersed in it with me, right? I didn't want anyone to read this book and then walk away thinking, yeah, I have absolutely no idea what it feels like. I have no clue. It's completely foreign to me. If somebody walked away, and someone did, but like, and still just didn't get it, then, you know,
Wow.
I really wanted people to feel, I wanted them to feel manic with me, and depressed with me, and like insomniatic with me, and anxious with me, and
yes,
you know, all these, and frustrated with me.
Cole felt betrayed by you. He said he thought you guys were friends, and then you walked him in.
You took me with these beautiful words that you put together so perfectly, and you led me down this path, and then you just smacked me, and you made me cry. I can't. We've reconciled. We're no longer in a fight, but know that we have.
Okay,
we're
words. Good.
Yes,
we've had words, but we're good now.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry, Cole. I feel like people like will write to me, like people that I know, friends of mine who read the book, and they'll be like, you made me cry, or I'm so upset with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. This is 2004 me. I've grown, I promise. Yes. I'm better. But yeah, so a lot of it was, once I wanted to make sure that people were immersed in this with me. There's an essay in the book, and the titles have changed so often that I don't even know what it's called now. It used to be called Hassan. It's the one that is the 24-hour like breakdown of
This is what
day.
happens. This is what happens.
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anytime.
I remember when I presented that, and that was written in real time. I wrote that.
We mentioned that you could tell when the essay was written. Janice actually mentioned another essay that she could feel like you were writing it in real time.
Yeah,
so that was always evident.
Yeah. A couple of them were written in real time, and a couple of them, most of the ones that were in like third and second person, I had to go into the memory, and in order for me to be present, I had to either tell myself the story, like, okay, you were doing this, you went there, you had, you know, this thing happened, and do you remember when that happened? And then there's the Peter is dead essay towards the end, where it switches from first to second. It's because I acknowledged the disassociation, and I acknowledged that I was grieving so hard for my friend that I completely lost that. But I know enough of what happened around it that I could tell myself. So I made sure that I put that in there. So going back to This Is What Happens, I presented that to my editor, and I've been working on that essay for that story for 15 years. Like in the story, when I get off the plane, and then I'm in Brooklyn, when I get off the plane, when I get out of the cab, and then I get onto the flight to fly to Detroit, I started writing it then. Like, in real life, I started writing it then, because that was the moment when I felt like, listen, there's something wrong. Yeah. And at some point you're going to have to explain it, or something's going to happen to you, and you're going to need people to know what happened. And so just do that. And because of the way my brain worked at that time, that's how it came out. But when I said that it had to be in the book, my editor was like, it's too long. Like, we have to cut a couple of hours out. We could do this, we could do that. And I remember saying to her, and again, this is why me feeling like this is the only book I was going to ever write was so beneficial, because I made some very like first time authors, don't do this. This is not the, you know, I need this cover. I need that. I need, this has to go in. If this doesn't go, if this entire thing isn't in, then none of it is in. And she liked it enough that she was like, no, some of it has to, no, it's all or nothing, because you can't cut this, because if you cut it, it takes away from what it's supposed to do. Because otherwise, what is it? It's just totally. Yeah, like what is it? Like if you cut like 12 hours from it, then what's the point of it even existing?
You couldn't spare us. You couldn't spare us as a
right.
reader.
And there were
needed
times
to fill every bit of that 100%.
Right. There were times when people would read it and they would say, "Oh my God, at like 2:05, I'm exhausted," and I was like, "Yes, at 2:05." I am also exhausted. You know what I mean? Like, we are tired together. We are exhausted together. So, so what was my point? So in writing it, I had to keep that in mind. I had to keep in mind that even if I wrote something and I could tell that there were certain things that I wrote that just didn't, I had to go back and say, okay, either this doesn't go in, or you be very honest about what it is you're trying not to say by saying what you said. Like you're avoiding something. So we can talk about what you did, but then we're also gonna have to tell a story about why you're avoiding it. So some of the stories in there have that element too, where it's like, here's the thing, and this is what I want you to believe, but then I'm also gonna tell you the actual truth and all the like other things. So it all just boiled down to me wanting people to experience this thing the way that I experienced it. When I started writing the book the way that I was writing in 2016, I was going through one of the worst depressive episodes of my life. And I didn't think I was going to come out of it. And this book to me was the letter. It was the note. It was this is what I've done. This is how hard I've tried. This is why I'm tired. Right. So I wrote all of that with that in my head, knowing that if this was the last thing I ever do, I want it to be as clear as possible why it was done. So.
Wow. Well, listen, we won't take up too much of your time. This has been incredible. I do have like one more question. You said so much. It came out a year ago. It was written about a different time. Looking back, even though, I mean, there's been a year of learning, I'm sure, since then. Looking back at this, it is your masterwork. You probably won't do it again. What was left, if there was anything? What do you look at this and think, what was left unsaid? What would you say now? Could you add and caveat? What could you do? Looking back at this, what is left unsaid here? What more could you say?
Y'all got me through Oprah paces. One of the biggest regrets I have is that I did my best to make sure that I only told my own story, right? Mm-hmm. So even the people that I encountered or the people that I wrote about, I acknowledged the fact that I was only writing about them where their lives intersected with mine. Mm-hmm. I don't go into their lives or whatever. And I did that because it's not my story to tell. Yeah. You know, I can't tell you the reason why this person behaves this way is because his father did this thing. Like, that's not my story to tell. But I do know that the way that they were affected me, and it affected me negatively because of things that they were going through. And I wish that I would have been clearer about that. I think that one of the things that was really disappointing to me is that some people walked away with these very binary reactions. This person's toxic, that person's abusive, this person's terrible, I hate this person. And that was never my intention. You know, that was never what I wanted people to walk away with. I edited purposefully towards kindness, in that if I was saying something that just flat out didn't make someone look good, just for no reason, like, and then you know, he killed my dog. No one killed my dog, but just like some like random out there that like, yeah, it was terrible, but it has nothing to do. It just paints him as a bad person. It doesn't give any context. It doesn't give any weight or gravitas, or it doesn't remove this thing that we have where we have to make someone good and someone bad. And I didn't want good and bad. Even me, I was a horrible person, you know, in some ways, because I wasn't okay. I wasn't great, you know, and I hope that in being able to tell a full story for myself and show you that I was someone who was trying, someone who was doing the best that they could. I hoped that somehow that would trickle down to the other people I wrote about, that this is someone who was trying. This is someone who was doing the best that they could. And I don't think I did that well enough, because I've been very apologetic that so many people would walk away with these ideas of people that I loved. You know, I loved so much, and I didn't tell their full story, because I didn't tell their full story because I was trying to be respectful of it. And I think I should have done that a little better. It's on the flip side to that, based on the reaction to the book, there are some times where I was like, maybe I should not have said that at all. Like, there are things that I could have just left out. But I think that if I'm being very honest with myself and honest in this moment, and having my Oprah experience, I don't think I have any real solid regrets. I don't think that, I think I wrote the thing that I needed to write at that moment. I don't think I'd be able to write it now. I know that I wouldn't have been able to write it 5, 10, 6 years ago. Like, I wrote it exactly as I needed to. And then I also wrote it, I was fortunate to be going through that depressive episode when I started it, because I needed the 4 or 5 weeks in therapy, or 5 days a week in therapy. I needed the double dosage of medication, because I was going into some territories that I needed that support for. I didn't know that at the time, but it just so happened that I was able to be supported in that way as I was writing it, because in any other situation, I wouldn't be able to dig that deep and not stay there. So it just kind of lined up that way. It was fortuitous that it happened when it did. So I cannot have the regrets. I can't have any solid regrets. And the only thing that I would change, I think, is just a sentence, a line, something that says, this person was actually really great sometimes, or, you know, they saved whales, or, you know, whatever, something. Because I just didn't, just my personality, I don't like people walking away thinking ill of people without all the context. Because I feel like if 2 or 3 lines are changed, you would hate me, because I gave myself grace. So I was hoping to give other people grace. But
Listen, this has been completely incredible. We honestly can't thank you enough. Feel free to unmute. Cole, I hear you talking. I hear you talking. Thank you so much. This has been completely incredible. We hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for inviting. I'm glad I saw your message when I did. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for reading my book.
Oh, thank you for creating that and putting that into the space for us to get it and understand and empathize and get closer to understanding about this whole thing, because it did exactly what you intended on it doing. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You.
Have a good rest of the
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye. Have a good night. Bye, everyone. Bye.
I told you it happened, and I told you I couldn't do it any justice. You had to just watch. Wasn't that completely incredible? I am still fanning out. I'm still not over it. I'm still wondering how, why, what. It's like that. Again, don't miss out. Join us over on the Books, Bud, and BS Facebook group, and let's see what happens next. Here we go. Books, Bud, and BS. It's a fine. Holla at me. Peace.